Hello and welcome everybody to the next installment of the Sonic Frontiers Starfall Tournament. This is a what if series where we investigate how the events of Sonic Frontiers could have played out differently if the end was using a tournament to set itself free from its cyberspace prison. We've seen many battles come and go now, and we reached the quarter-finals. Only the toughest fighters remain in the ring for this, so it's going to be an explosive time. Before we get into it, if you like this video and want to help support the channel, please leave a like and subscribe. It really does help me out. And if you want to further support my work, please share this video with your friends and those you think would be interested so that the discussion can grow. Now then, let's see what the next round has in store. With the rather untraditional end to the previous match, the arena is nonetheless ready for the next battle to take place. Surge, disappointed with the anticlimactic end from last round, taunts Shadow the Hedgehog. "Ah, aren't you just a big gold fluffy heart? Too bad we'll become a bleeding one when I get to fight you." Shadow keeps his eyes shut, arms folded, and head facing away from Surge. This ticks her off. "Are you even listening to me?" And she boosts towards Shadow, standing right in front of his face. "I hate all of you silent, brooding types. You think you're all so tough, but it makes it all the sweeter once I beat the snot out of you." Shadow then opens up one of his eyes to stare at Surge. "Ooh, have I annoyed you? Do you really think a look's gonna scare me? Do you ever shut up? That's it, time to take you down." Surge strikes at Shadow with a thunder punch, but before she even lands, he's already teleported away, stood now on a far hill overlooking the arena. "You can't hide from me! That's such a cheap trick!" At this point, the end announces the next match will be between Surge and Infinite. The red shell containing the strange mutated jackal quivers as he thrashes around. It flies towards the arena and suspends itself in the air. Surge looks over. "Well, I guess he'll have to wait his turn. Time for my action to begin." She leaps onto the stage, landing with a thud as she confidently stares down the contained jackal. "All that gloating didn't take you anywhere. There's a difference between boasting and having the skill to back it up. And unlike me, it seems you're just a poser." At this point, the shell cracks open and Infinite swarms onto the arena, flowing like a dust storm before culminating into his mutated figure. It outstretches its arms and roars towards Surge. Black flames lick the edges of the arena, threatening more harm than usual should Surge decide to collide with the barrier. "You want to make this more of a cage match? That's fine by me." In his current state, Infinite isn't much for banter, simply glaring down at Surge as his arms slowly waver from side to side. "Looks like you did the favor of shutting yourself up for me. Now I'll help you shut your eyes for good." With that, Surge leaps up towards Infinite's large head, with a current of lightning streaming off of her as she pulls her fist back for a powerful punch. Infinite swings one of his giant hands down towards Surge and smashes it against the stone floor, seemingly squishing her. However, she simply caught the underside of his palm and ran across it, already up by his shoulder by the time Infinite lifts his hand off the floor. She gets up beside his mask and flicks her fingers, summoning a thunderbolt right on his face, shocking the creature, causing it genuine harm as electricity discharges across its body. To get away, Infinite's form seems to split into two semi-transparent figures, one going right, one going left, and they loop around the arena, meeting at the exact opposite edge, coming back to form Infinite once again. Surge lands and looks over her shoulder to see where his new position is. "So you think you're fast, huh? There's nothing faster than me." And in a burst of light, Surge is already by Infinite again and manages to zap his giant mask, shocking him all over again. A pulse of energy pushes out from Infinite's core, knocking Surge back onto the floor, and at the base of his giant form, a smaller figure emerges through a storm of cubes. Surge squints, and it's apparent a form resembling Infinite's original one now stands before her. Was I too much to handle for you, big guy? Unfortunately for you, it doesn't matter how big or small you are. I'm still gonna grind ya." Surge eagerly charges towards Infinite, striking him with an electric fist in the shoulder, lurching his back. Then she strikes his other side, knocking him around, hitting him with a punch to the gut as it buckles over. She slams her fist down atop his helmet, knocking his chin down so that she can knee it, kicking it back up in a violent display of speed and electricity. Infinite shakes it off and tries to spin around, whipping Surge with his tail, but she responds by grabbing his tail and pivoting around her heel, throwing him over her shoulder and slamming Infinite into the ground. As he lies on the floor, she goes to grab his neck, but suddenly a larger hand grabs her own and raises her up above the ground. As she pulls at the hand on her neck, she looks down to see Vector the crocodile holding her up high. He punches her in the stomach, causing her to cry out in pain, but she then discharges electricity from all over her body, forcing Vector to release his grip upon her. As soon as she lands on the ground, she puts a powerful kick into the knee of Vector, causing it to completely shatter into a bunch of cubes across the floor as he falls down due to the loss of a knee in front of Surge. She then does a spinning kick, smashing Vector and sending him spiraling away into the distance, but his form shifts into that of a twin-tailed fox, which then flies back towards her. Pipsqueak! She slings a lightning bolt at Tails, striking him and knocking him out of the sky. He tumbles across the ground and comes to a sliding halt, ragdolling in front of Surge. She slowly walks over to the unconscious Tails and lifts a foot above his head. Is this some kind of a joke? And then she forces her foot down to curb stomp him. However, she feels some resistance underneath her foot as she tries to push down. What now? A red forehead is pushing against her feet as Knuckles the Echidna rises from beneath her and uppercuts Surge, launching her up into the air. Before she has a chance to realize what's happened, he picks up a chunk of the arena and throws the rock towards her, smashing into Surge as she tumbles onto the ground. Rather than just hitting the floor face on though, she curls into a ball and starts whizzing around. Knuckles proceeds to throw another boulder at her, but she rolls onto it mid-air, spins around it, and then launches off like a slingshot, charging at high speed towards Knuckles. She uncurls from her ball and sends another bolt of lightning towards him. It strikes, launching him back, but before he can fly more than a couple centimeters, she uses her lightning speed to catch up to him on his way and slam him one more time with a large right hook. Knuckles' body drags against the ground, mere inches away from the barrier. Surge starts rubbing her hands together to generate a stronger static charge before shooting a large beam of lightning towards Knuckles. A metallic claw intercepts this streak of lightning. Not you again! E123 Omega walks into the lightning bolt with a hand in front of it, absorbing the charge. He then pulls his arm back and retracts his claw to power up a cannon with her own lightning. But just as he fires, the form shifts into Blaze, shooting a concentrated beam of high heat towards Surge. She's completely caught off guard by the switch around and engulfed by flames. She calls out in pain as she tries to pat herself off, much like she did before. But during this moment of weakness, she feels a sharp sting into her side, and she's yanked up across the air and slammed back into the ground as the flames die around her. Big the Cat fished her out from the flames and dropped her right in front of him. He opens his arms out wide and allows gravity to do its work as he falls down on top of Surge. I'm not gonna go down with a fat cat! She shoots a cone of lightning from her body, pushing Big up into the air and blasting him away, saving her from that attack. She pulls herself up to her feet and dusts herself off. Oh, you're such a coward! None of this is real! Surge has a tantrum as she sparks lightning off in random directions, hoping to hit something critical, but all she does is hit the air. The wind starts swirling around at numerous spots of the arena, catching her attention as she tries to strike it with bolts of lightning. She keeps missing. Just hold still, what are you anyway? Then behind her she hears a stomp. Turning around, she sees Sonic the Hedgehog wagging his finger at her. Yeah, that's it! I'm gonna destroy everything here! Surge charges towards the Sonic in a lightning rage, and the Sonic charges back towards her. They clash, pushing against one another, forehead to forehead. Surge can't help but grin. Yes, this is all I ever wanted, but you're not real! You're fake! This is all just a trick! The Sonic smiles and then disappears, causing her to run face first into the barrier. Fire and lightning strikes her as she's blasted off and lands on her back. Ugh, I hate this. Why am I never enough? Why is there always something else? Then she hears a voice from behind her. Why indeed? Such a disappointment you've turned out to be. What? Who is that? She looks around in a panic. Nothing to fear, simply your guardian angel. Her eyes narrow in shock. Starline? Yes, indeed. Now how did you find yourself in such a situation? The doctor paces around as he gestures over the arena. You have one job to do. Defeat Sonic the Hedgehog. Well, I don't see any hedgehogs around here. Surge, still on the ground as she looks over her shoulder, stutters. How are you? Oh yes, that's it. Someone else already defeated Sonic the Hedgehog. One of his friends, in fact. My, your life's purpose taken away by some stranger. What does that even make you anymore? Get out of my head! You had so much potential, but it's all amounted to nothing. Oh dear. You were my first attempt, I suppose. I shouldn't be too hard on myself. Always room for improvement some other time. But what is there left for you now that your life's purpose is gone? What even are you? A tool? A thing? A waste? Starline walks up behind Surge and puts an arm around her shoulder, leaning into her ear. Save your words, Surge. They were always rather simple anyway. Fear not, you will not have to concern yourself over your existence for much longer. Just let it all end. She begins to weep, anxiety taking a hold of her. How is he here? Nothing else makes sense anymore. That's it, Surge. Just let it all end. Calmly. Quietly. A sphere of darkness has been closing in around Surge this whole time, and eventually it consumes her entirely. Once it disperses, the spectators see Surge lying on her back, her head tilted to the side as tears streak from her closed eyes, unconscious. Her body fades away. Infinite in his monstrous form simply loomed over the arena, but once Surge is gone, his arms instantly fling out to the side, striking the invisible barrier as he strains against it, clawing at the force field as Phantom Ruby cubes spill out and around. The red container once again re-emerges and pushes against Infinite's arms. Though it can't do so in one motion as he offers strong resistance, it does eventually clasp him shut once again, sealing him away and moving him off the arena. Zavok huffs to himself. Another peon out of my way. Very few remain now, he says, looking towards Shadow the Hedgehog. He then looks over towards Chaos. That one I like. Zaz looks at Zavok inquisitively. You like that one, boss? Yes. Silent, strong. Doesn't waste time with pointless chatter. Destroying him will feel satisfying indeed. The end announces that the next match will be between Shadow the Hedgehog and Zavok the Zeti. Oh, but perhaps not as satisfying as this. Your time has come. Let us meet as warriors in the field of battle. Yeah, boss! Time to tear him up. You're the strongest here. It's not like he's a pushover. Be that as it may, nobody pushes me around. And he stomps towards the arena. Shadow likewise walks his way to his side of the battlefield. They both meet each other near the center as they eye each other down. You know, we've never actually handled ourselves in a 1 versus 1 before. Perhaps you simply had more sense than your fellows, avoiding certain doom. Unfortunately for you, there shall be no escape this time. Shadow brushes his comment off and prepares himself. Do you have nothing more to say? What pitiful last words. Very well, I will send you to your grave. Zavok leads, pointing his head down so that his horns face Shadow and rushing down towards him. The hedgehog responds by jumping and grabbing Zavok's horn, spinning around it like a sling, and then as he flies back into the air past Zavok, he quickly throws his arm out to send a Chaos Spear towards his back. Zavok pivots and grabs the Chaos Spear in his hand. It explodes, but he doesn't seem to take too much damage, and he instantly throws his other hand forward, sending a fireball towards Shadow, who's still in the air, doesn't have enough time to maneuver out of the way, and blocks it to his best ability as it explodes against his palms. In the meantime, Zavok jumps up into the sky to smash Shadow with his giant arms. Shadow in turn curls into a spin ball and collides into Zavok. His plan is not to continuously spin Zavok, for it's been shown many times he doesn't care about that. Now that they're up close and personal, Shadow uncurls from his ball and starts smashing him with melee attacks. Naturally, Zavok is also doing the same, as they trade punches and kicks as they fall down from the air towards the ground. Colliding with the floor, they both stop for an instant to find their footing, and then continue. Zavok slamming down with his fist, Shadow rolling to the side and striking him in the neck with his feet, but Zavok pushing his leg away and thrusting at him with his sharp claws. Shadow manages to duck low, avoiding these attacks, and then he starts spinning on his back, doing some breakdance kicks with his legs, causing a whirling flame of tornado beneath Zavok. But he scoffs. Flames do not harm me. And he strikes down at Shadow anyway. The force of the impact bounces Shadow up against the floor into the air at the height of Zavok's head. He goes to slam Shadow in between both his open palms, but instead he claps the air as Shadow teleports out of this attack behind Zavok and strikes him with a chaos-infused fist. The impact pushes Zavok across the ground, but he slams one of his feet into the floor and pivots around on it, throwing a ball of fire as he does so towards Shadow. The Dark Hedgehog steps aside from the first fireball, then a second one comes, and he bats it away using a chaos-infused karate chop. Zavok opens his mouth and shoots a larger third fireball towards Shadow, which gets skewered in half as the Chaos Spear pierces through it and collides with Zavok head on. Shadow frowns as the red Zeti dusts himself off, and he thinks to himself, he's able to shrug off my chaos attacks. Zavok, amused at Shadow's expression, decides to comment, "What's the matter? Are you afraid? Did you seriously expect simple light shows to end me? I am the leader of the Deadly Six, the most powerful of the Zeti. Nothing you can do can harm me." Shadow raises his hands above his head and separates them, generating a glowing chaos lance in between as he grabs it. No matter what you bring, it'll never be enough. Zavok charges down towards Shadow again. Shadow also approaches, spear in hand, as the Zeti's fist launches towards him. He intercepts the attack with his spear, and then attempts an attack of his own, thrusting it forward towards Zavok. He manages to brush it aside with the bracelet around his wrist, and goes for a sucker punch under Shadow. But the ultimate lifeform teleports to the side, and strikes Zavok's back with his elbow. The Zeti does a backwards kick to try and retaliate, but Shadow uses his speed to run around in front of Zavok, and attempts to thrust a spear into his opponent. But Zavok instead uses his free arms to smash the ground, wobbling Shadow's balance and giving him enough time to kick him back with his other foot. Shadow starts whirling into a spin attack, but still grasping the spear, a whirling green blade of energy extends from it as he barrels into Zavok. He raises up his red arms to block against the attack as he's pushed back inch by the sheer force. A whirling green buzzsword into his arm as it begins cutting and bruising from the sharp attack. He opens up both of his arms, yelling, "Enough stalling!" Shadow in a bad position as he loses his balance in the air, uncurling from a ball, as Zavok then jumps up to punch him into the ground. However, seeing an opening, Shadow thrusts the spear into Zavok's chest mid-air as it goes through and wedges itself into his body, sticking out on both ends. Zavok drops to the ground, as does Shadow. He appears to have won as Zavok is unmoving, but then his fingers ball into a fist and he strikes Shadow, catching him off guard and launching him away. With his other hand, he grips the spear wedged into his body and smashes it, disintegrating it. "That is enough!" He reaches behind and pulls out a strange seashell-like instrument. "It's time you realize the full extent of my abilities." As the tune echoes into the atmosphere, Sudden storm clouds gather overhead, sparking with lightning, and a strange shadow moves through them. Pouring out from the tops of the clouds, a large mechanoid dragon descends down onto the arena, coiling around the stony surface as Zavok jumps up and lands upon its head, looking down upon Shadow, who seems far smaller from up here. "What the?" Zavok folds his arms and grins. "Yes, now you can see my true power, Shadow. Let us see how the ultimate life form measures against the true potential of the Zeti." And you're going to have to wait till next time to find out. Shadow vs Zavok continues in the next part of the Sonic Frontiers Starfall Tournament. I hope to see you then. And thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. It really does help out the channel. If you would like to further support me, please leave a like, comment and subscribe down below. But most importantly, share the video around to those you think will be interested so that more people can join in on the fun. With that said and done, I hope you have a great day and to see you next time. This is the Mighty Emperor signing off.